Welcome to the Wealth Without Wall Street podcast, your guide to understanding how to get out of the Wall Street rat race and start your own mailbox money lifestyle. Now, don't let these handsome Southern draws fool you. These financial minds are teaching our country to enhance savings, increase cash flow, and create passive income, all without the help of Wall Street. Are you ready to break through? Now here are your hosts, Russ Morgan and Joey Murray.
Welcome. This is the Wealth Without Wall Street podcast. Your host, Joey, the Italian Stallion Murray, along with Russ, the Idea Guy Morgan. Russ, I hope you have some ideas, because today we're talking about fire.
Fire?
Fire in your belly.
Fire? What do you mean fire?
I mean, not literal fire, right? We're talking about financial independence, retire early, the movement that is all around us right now.
Gotcha. All right. I didn't know if you're like going Beavis and Butthead, fire, fire, fire kind of concept on me. You're going financial independence, retire early. Gotcha. All right.
What are your thoughts on this?
I'm kind of conflicted. You know, everybody wants to retire early. I mean, that is a very
who hasn't thought about that?
Yeah. Well, I will say this. I mean, I remember distinctly when I got married, I told my wife I was going to retire by age 35. And she reminded me up until that date what a dumb idea that was. And then when I didn't achieve it, she continued to remind me.
She was like basically starting her practice at 35. Right?
Well, also, I mean, like part of my dream here is I was going to own like a storage home units, you know,
mini storage.
Sure. And I was going to have my mom as the worker, right? I was going to be like, Mom, I'm always going to have a place for you to live because I'll build you a place. And then like the bottom of the place will be like the office and you just check people in. It's fine. You'll love it.
So easy.
Yeah. So
passive income for you, active income for her.
Exactly. And, you know, she always has a place to live, right? I mean, you're supposed to be taking care of your parents. I'm like,
this is a win-win. Absolutely.
Yeah. So these are the dreams I have at age 23. But now I look at it and yes, I want financial independence. That's definitely something I'm seeking. The retire early part though, like I love what I do, bro. If I wasn't here, what would I be doing?
Okay. So I'd love to start identifying exactly what this movement is about specifically. Okay. Because I think there's a lot of assumptions that go into those words, financial independence. To me, that means options. Right? It doesn't mean that I don't have to work or don't want to work. It's like, you know, if let's say somebody is caught in their job and they just hate it, but they have no option other than to move to another job. And even that may be daunting at certain times in the economy, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Like I was talking to somebody the other day and they were talking to me about the specific stresses that they have related to their job. Like financial independence is so that they can remove that. I mean, they love their actual work, but they are fearful about the job that they're in because of the uncertainty that they don't get to control the decision making. And that means that they could be out of a job. They love the work, but they are fearful of the uncertainty.
Right. And so I point that to is why we find it so important to create passive income. What does passive income allow you to do? It allows you to make choices to maybe to step out of a job and not even have something lined up because you know what? It's not the right fit. I don't feel comfortable here, but I've got this other income coming in so I can make I have options, right? So I agree with that as long as that's what people are pointing towards.
So the retire early part, though, is that you know you follow this movement much closer than I, and I know we're going down to a conference next week, FinCon, and there's that acronym FIRE is all over
like
the place,
Mecca,
right? Yeah, like that's the buzzword,
right? To be honest with you, I think it also is still too ambiguous to me. But to me, I think it just gives you freedom to not be under someone else's job, or like let's say it's less like the baby boomer generation that felt like they had to stay in a job for 40 years. And so I think there's this movement to say, man, what if I didn't have to put off enjoying life until I was 65? Like I've missed all this part of my life. So retire early would mean enjoying life as we are in our career. Does that make sense?
It does. I mean, I just, like I go to the definition of retire means to be taken out of service. And I heard some like really scary stats, especially for men. The retire, like taken out of service, like has marital consequences. And I won't go into those. I'll keep it a family show on this. But like, I just think like the concept of being taken out of service. So if we're going to leave a job that we do not like, and we're going to start running a real estate portfolio, which is basically, part of our interview today with Lindsay Davis from Spartan Invest, they're talking about real estate, right? So if that's going to be my active, work, that's what I'm going to be interested in. I'm going to be trying to seek out other properties. I'm trying to seek out advisors or people who have great business models like Spartan Invest does. Then yes, like I'm all about that. But see, that's not retiring to me. That's still actively at work. Maybe I'm not doing, a 9-to-5 job. I get that. I mean, you and I, like, if you showed up and stayed here longer than 5, like your wife would put you on like a milk carton, man.
This is coming from the guy that showed up 30 minutes late for an appointment. So I don't want to hear it. But hey, here's the thing. We're going to go back and forth on this topic. In fact, I think we should continue the conversation on FIRE and what that means. And even, I mean, if you're listening to this and you have comments about it, you have questions about what is FIRE for you, what does financial independence, retire early mean to you, we want to address those things on the show. But today, we need to go ahead and jump into this interview with Lindsay Davis, Spartan Invest. She is going to help us unpack exactly what we're talking about, creating a passive income real estate portfolio. These folks are located here in Birmingham, and they are doing it right. You are not going to want to miss hearing how they do it, how they're basically serving these properties up on a silver platter for investors who are looking for that passive income. So without further ado, I want to just jump right into that.
Welcome into the show, Lindsay. We are so excited to have you on today.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Yeah, Spartan Invest is a local celebrity around here. I mean, this company is homegrown, and you guys are doing amazing things. Did we talk about that you're on pace to sell over 240 homes this year to investors wholesale?
We are. We purchased 260 last year to sell this year. We're on pace to do 300 next year.
Wow.
That's pretty impressive considering the market right now. I mean, I always kind of make the joke that everybody with HGTV has now become a home flipper and wants to get in the rental world. Yet, and so it's making it super difficult. They've got to be driving up prices. But the fact that you're still finding 250 deals that still make sense in your model, that means you guys are doing some homework.
We have a few avenues. We do purchase off the foreclosure steps. And trust me, there are a lot of investors that have watched HGTV and they show up there on the courthouse steps. We see that quite a bit. But we also have great relationships with several home sellers. And then we own the WeBuyHouses.com franchise for Jefferson, Shelby, and Tuscaloosa County. So we're able to source properties directly from individual homeowners as well.
Sure. Now, you guys are getting buyers from all over the U.S., right?
All over. We have buyers in 46 states and 8 countries right now.
Okay, so what are the 4 states we're missing? Because we need to put a shout out there. Those listening, that we can go ahead and get this even 50 here.
We haven't. We actually finally broke Alaska, but so I think
nice.
We're seeing Michigan and a Utah, and I can't remember the other 2.
Okay, wow. We'll work on Utah. We have some friends up there.
Yeah, we got a president in Utah. We'll definitely hit them up. We want to make sure. Well, the journey of Spartan is really interesting. Like you said, it started with just a couple of you coming out of a kind of a management background, and I want to point people toward your website to go watch the full 20-minute story of this. But just really briefly, give the high points, because this is really interesting how you guys started this and now have blossomed it to this huge emerging business.
Thanks. Well, Clayton Mobley and myself both started our careers at Cintas, which is Uniform Facility Services and management roles. And we're doing really well there. I was there for about 4.5 years. And he left to help some other investors resell properties and kind of realized that there was a niche there. Recruited me. I left Cintas, and it was just he and I for the first 3.5, 4 years. I think it was like 3 years before we finally brought on an assistant. And those were some pretty fun years.
Okay, sure. but let me stop you there. Let's think through where you're at right there. You're both at Cintas, and then all of a sudden Clayton comes, he says, "Hey, I'm leaving. I'm going to go do this crazy thing called real estate." And what was your initial thought?
He's pretty crazy. Yeah. I really did. Honestly.
I mean, it's a known thing. You're getting paid a salary and all this, and then all of a sudden, bang! He's like, "Yep, I'm flying the coop."
And he was done and just taking the leap of faith, saying, "Hey, I've got the business model. I know we can make this work. Are you in? I can't pay you really anything."
That's a solid. I mean, his sales pitch hopefully has improved since then.
It was a pretty solid sales pitch then. I'll give him credit for that, but it worked, and just kind of jumping in, leaving the corporate cushion, the 401k health insurance to about a third of what I was making at Cintas is where I left.
Wow.
And that was 2011? When is that?
That was 2011, right.
So, but I mean, the person you're talking to right now is either in that position or they're wanting to be in that position. I mean, we all want control of our own destiny. And when you're working for the man, you're working for the corporation, that you don't have that. You don't have the freedom. I know you're a mom of 3, and the fact that you get to help run a business and run a household, all those things, it requires flexibility, and that's everybody's interested in that. So you and Clayton started that in 2011, and you guys ramped up pretty quickly.
We did after we changed the focus of the business model. Like I said, when we started, we were very HGTV, flipping that house to owner occupants. We would stage properties, but everyone knows how volatile the real estate market can be, and selling to investor clients, we kind of already knew the renovation model. We knew the market, and that was something that really wasn't being done in Birmingham, and the returns are fantastic here. It's a very, very untapped market in the real estate, rental property arena. So we were able to kind of capitalize on that, and since then, once we kind of got our foot in the door with investor clients, it really skyrocketed. And we got Maureen McCann, who is our VP of sales, really kind of helped drive those sales to investors.
Yeah. Well, go ahead, Joey.
I'll walk in on this. So walk us through the model as it is today. So someone is going to engage Spartan. They've got, what's kind of an entry point level that you look at on average for somebody to get involved? And what does their involvement need to look like? So walk us through that.
So our entire process has been geared to be very hands-off for the investor. Really, this is so anyone, no matter your job, profession, you can be a real estate investor. So from the beginning of the process, we walk you through. We have a closing coordinator that will help you identify a property once you're ready to go. Now, a lot of times you've spoken with Maureen on several occasions to make sure you've ironed out all of your questions. But we have a closing coordinator that will walk you through our entire renovation process, home inspection, lenders, every little thing that can come up in the closing of a home. We're there on that aspect. And then once the property closes, it goes to our property management company, which is Alabama Rental Property. And if you want to see some properties that we have available, you can go to our alabamarentalproperty.com to see properties we have on the market. So once it goes to the property management company, we have somebody in our management company that contacts you every month to let you know your rental payments, what's going on with your tenant, just really constant one-on-one communication. And it's really to kind of create the really hands-off feel for anybody, wherever you are. Majority of our investors buy these properties sight unseen. So a lot of trust has to be developed with the investor at the get-go. So that's why we have all of these people in place to make this process as seamless as possible.
Okay, I got to break down a few of the things that you said, because no, that's fine. I heard you say that you have someone who calls the investor once a month to let them know. I've owned plenty of rental properties, and to date, I'm still waiting on the call, except for, hey, by the way, we need to have you pay to update the advertising for the new deal, or hey, by the way, this broke and it's past your allowance of what you can just automatically sign off on. So you guys call for other things. That's pretty interesting. Where'd that come from?
Well, when we were first starting the property management company, our entire focus was investor relations, customer service. We want to build the trust. We want this a long-term relationship. And when we were researching investors and their feedback on property management companies, the largest negative was lack of feedback on what's going on with their rental property. So we have, from the get-go, implemented a once a month communication. Now, we do have some investors that prefer to be way more hands off, and they tell us, hey, look, you do not have to call me. An email is fine, which is perfectly fine. But we have a designated person that reaches out to every investor every month, even if it's just to say, hey, we got your rent, it's posted, have a great day. That's just to keep the open lines of communication and trust constant.
That's awesome. Now, let me back up again to where you started the process. So someone's listening to this and saying, okay, it sounds good, but I mean, what does it really take to get involved? I mean, what on average sales price, like give us an idea of how somebody's getting started with you from a cost basis.
From a cost standpoint, majority of our investors go through financing. So our average sale price of a property is from $95 to about $115. So about 20% of that purchase price is what you would have to come to the table with. And that also, anybody that's ever purchased a house, if you go through lending, you have to pay for an appraiser, and then it's optional if you purchase a home inspection, any additional inspections. But that is really out of pocket what you come to the table with.
So in your model, you guys are sourcing the houses, you're finding them, then you're partnering up an investor to the house,
correct.
and then you're giving them the option of how they want to pay for it. I'm assuming you guys did a certain level of renovation. How much renovation has happened on the house? What is the goal? I mean, whenever you guys go into a property, what sort of standard are you guys trying to get it to before then turning it and renting it?
Well, if you ever want to see any of our renovations, you go online and see the finished quality, because every property looks pretty similar. We put granite countertops in our kitchens, new tin roofs on the properties, new HVAC with security cage. We have luxury vinyl tile flooring that we install. Unless the property already has hardwood, then we keep hardwood. Absolutely no carpet. It is a maintenance nightmare. We also do not supply appliances for our properties. New water heaters, new paint throughout, et cetera, et cetera. So we try to bring the property up to kind of a higher level of quality than you find in your average rental property. And the reason why we do that is because the nicer the quality, the better the tenant, the more it can be expected. Less evictions. Right now we're running a 1% eviction rate for 650 properties under management. And I think it's because it's a little harder to get into the properties at the beginning. So hopefully we weed out potential issues with tenants.
That's also... If someone is buying this property from you, it's already been renovated. Has it already had the tenant in place, or are they buying it and then you're looking for the tenant? Give me some feedback on that.
It depends. I think the last time we ran the numbers, about 57% of the time there's a tenant already in place, and that really just depends on when the property was through with the renovation to when the property was closed. So it depends. It's about a 50-50 split.
Well, we're obviously in Birmingham, but we don't research demographics and the statistics, I'm sure, to the level that you do. But we see, the the Mercedes plants. We see the growth in downtown. I mean, you can't go downtown without just, being inundated with cranes and construction. I mean, we've got this new football facility that's about to be built down there. I mean, it is growing. This is obviously a huge driver for what making this rental market work, right?
It is. We have seen several things that have really helped bring jobs to our local rental area. Excuse me. The auto car in Centerpoint, the Amazon coming to the Hueytown and requiring the transit system in that area. I think it's going to just bring massive amount of jobs. We do see a lot from the Mercedes area, and that if anybody's familiar with Birmingham, you know that there's not a lot in Vance. So a big rental market for us is the Hueytown, Bessemer area. We have a lot of Mercedes employees that rent there. So, I mean, several of the growth that Birmingham has been experiencing has really, really benefited us.
That's awesome. And I'm thinking even like the hospital and the banking industry is really, really big in Birmingham, or healthcare, so on and so forth. So what other things do you see kind of as factors that are going to continue to feed your ability to provide good rentals in Birmingham?
Factors as far as being able to source the property or source tenants?
Both.
Well, honestly, a lot of the jobs growing, I mean, that's a given, but I think the upscale of the properties that we're bringing them to. So, for instance, we actually ran a study back in 2010. The average property sold in Centerpoint was right at $60,000. And now the average price is closer to mid-90s. So also seeing the values of the home, that's also going to be able to help us source better tenants in the desired areas, helping raise values. And, the market being pretty hot is definitely a benefit as well.
One other thing that when we met with Clayton recently, he mentioned that you guys only manage properties that you sell. So speak to that a little bit. That's a unique thing. If you have a property management company, I would think you just manage other people's properties. Why did you choose to do that?
Well, we don't make a lot of money on the property management side, to be honest. We look at the property management side as the bonus, the plus for dealing with or for purchasing with Spartan Invest. And we don't charge additional maintenance when we send maintenance people out there. We don't charge additional when we go through an eviction, even though that we're paying for those costs up front. So we really look at a way to control the quality as well. Our maintenance ratio is at 3.1%. I think market universal is 5 to 6. We're able to run a lower maintenance, focus on our investors that have purchased properties with us. It's just really more from a customer service standpoint.
So walk me through this. Give me an example. People listening are interested in finding passive investments, passive ways to create income outside of their normal job or whatever you may call it. Are there any examples of people, maybe not by specific name, but who have engaged with you guys and then the success stories of what they've done with you?
I have several examples of those. One couple in particular that we kind of tell as our success story is they had one property in Southern California. And we work with a lot of investors on 1031 exchange. If you want me to go in more detail about that, I can. But they sold that property, and with the 1031 exchange that they were able to do, they purchased 12 properties with us in Birmingham.
Wow.
They were able to create enough passive income to retire. And they're both mid-50s and really living life right now. And they were able to do that through the passive income that rental property provides. And it was a really great success story because they'd never owned rental property before. It was a very easy process that I don't want to say easy. We tried to make it easy process. Yeah. They were very scared, but now it's been a great success story. But and to kind of feed back into the property management piece of that, we've had investors that have bought a property with us, and then gone and bought a separate property and asked us to manage it. Unfortunately, we wouldn't do it, and they've all come back and purchased more properties with us. It's just because the management property, or the management company, I'm sorry, is really the long-term relationship.
Well, I mean, anybody who's owned rental property, I mean, the idea of having residents and rodents, and in my situation, several ServPro incidents, gets really frustrated with that property management part. So the fact that you guys have managed this to 1.5%, whatever you said it was, eviction rate, but then a 3 to 4% maintenance ratio, that's actually putting dollars and cents into your pocket. That's where the rubber's hitting the road, because at the end of the day, it's all about how much more income can we produce and we have monthly expenses. and so it's really, you guys have found that. What do you see? Because again, I'm looking at the future, and I don't see all the rainbows and unicorns out there. I think there's some tough days ahead, and I'm sure I've talked with both of you now. You're very smart individuals. You're planning for some of these things. What is it that you see are challenges that you guys are going to have to overcome to continue the model the way you were working it?
Well, obviously, additional competition in the markets that we're focusing on has played a role. Now, we've been able to scale, so get economies of scale. We're able to source a lot of the materials that we renovate the properties with, and being able to source properties from individual homeowners has been a benefit. But, the competition, the real estate market actually becoming more competitive, even from an owner-occupant standpoint, is making sourcing properties more difficult. So I definitely see that as an issue. And then as we continue to grow, hiring more employees, our margins get slimmer. But as long as we can consistently keep this same model, we're able to take it and put it in another market, which is the end goal, obviously, is to take this same model and find a similar type Birmingham market to implement.
What just help? No, that's all right. Help me see. Again, we always kind of try to paint success and we paint failure, because it's good to know. As an investor of anything, where our opportunities are, but also where the potential obstacles are. So when you're sitting down, and I'm sure it's no longer you having that conversation as much as it is with Maureen or some of the other management team potentially, but what are the things that you're sharing with the investors that come to you for the first time? They haven't experienced this, royal red carpet that you guys lay out, which is pretty cool, by the way, because I know I've never experienced that in my investing world. What is some of the things that you lay out as far as expectations, and also painting it to where, hey, look, there are going to be some potential hurdles. Here's what that look like potentially.
We try to be very honest and upfront with investors on the risks, because rental property is not for everybody. Sometimes you do have to have a kind of a strong stomach for it, and that there are going to be issues that are out of your control. So for instance, when I say our average, right now our average eviction is 1%. Our average maintenance ratio is 3.1. So we've got investors that have a 0% maintenance, but then we have some investors with a 10% because a tree fell through their roof. And those are things that you're going to have to be able to stomach and be able to pay for and handle and kind of fix into your return margins. And it's kind of, there's going to be tenants that don't pay, that you're going to have to go through eviction process. I personally have rental property as well. I've had eviction process in my rental property. It's going to happen eventually. So we really try to be very upfront with all of our investors and say, hey, look, we're going to do everything in our power to make sure that these unavoidables don't happen, but sometimes they will, and that's why we really talk about the CapEx items in the renovation, in that the big items from a maintenance standpoint, we try to cover roof, water heater, HVAC. Those are your really big maintenance issues. So we try to hit those at the beginning, but we've had a couple of properties, most of our properties were built in the 60s and 70s. So sometimes we have sewer lines that bust. There is no way to avoid it. It just happens. It's a costly repair. So we really try to be upfront about the cons, the risks to rental property, because evictions are inevitable, late payments, tenants trashing houses. That's all going to happen at some point.
Sure. Well, one last thing I would love, because sometimes people are aligned more with one group over another. You guys probably have an ideal investor, somebody that you've looked at and said, this is who our ideal person is. So if they're listening to you right now, tell them who you are, who you're looking for. So that way they know if they're interested in investing, they're looking for another avenue, and they see Birmingham as this a booming area that is creating growth. Who would that person be for you?
I'd have to say that it's really anybody. I really think that's a benefit of the turnkey model that's in place, is that you don't have to fit a certain criteria of an investor to purchase with us. Obviously, this has to be something that you've done research on, due diligence. Get out there, listen to podcasts, or read on Bigger Pockets. Take in as much information as you can. Make sure you do your due diligence on rental property and that you're aware of the risk versus rewards, etc. But our current investors range from all occupancy, income. They're really all over the place. So I really think that that's one of the benefits, is that you don't have to make a certain amount. You don't have to do this or this to purchase rental property with us.
So you don't have to be an accredited investor. We always kind of make the point on this show to point out if you do have to be or not. And that in that case, you're confirming it's not the case.
That is not the case.
Well, you're owning a property and you're renting it. So in that scenario, but I didn't realize clearly you want to have somebody that's going to have multiple properties with you, and not necessarily just one, but I didn't know if you guys had kind of a criteria. So,
right now our average investor owns 3.5 properties. And what we've seen as we've continued to grow is that our investors will come in and buy one property with us, see how it goes, 6 months, 8 months. And then majority of our investors have come back and purchased multiple properties. So we realize that this is a big risk, especially if it's sight unseen purchase, to only want to purchase one in the beginning. Obviously from a scaling standpoint, it's a lot easier if the investor purchased multiple, but it also helps your return. If your entire portfolio is made up of different houses, you have one eviction, it doesn't negatively affect you as much as if that was your only property. So yeah, we definitely advise that you purchase more than one, but we're very sympathetic to the trial.
Yeah, the dipping the toe in the water and then growing, and we resonate with that. Start slow, grow it as you continue to gain more knowledge and enthusiasm for what you're doing. Well, thank you so much, Lindsay, for coming on and sharing this with our audience. It's always neat to be matched up with somebody here in Birmingham. It's amazing. We talk to people all over the country, but to find a group like yours that is like adding so much value in this space, real estate space, which again is not unique because there's everybody out there doing it. But what is unique is the fact that you guys are doing it with such class and service. I think that is really cool. And we're going to point people toward your website, toward that story that you mentioned that you have on there, and would encourage people to, if they're interested in real estate, to reach out to you guys and at least have a conversation.
Thank you guys so much for having me on. And yes, if you want more information, there's tons available on our website at spartaninvest.com. And if you want to get in touch with Maureen, who's sales, you fill out one of the contact forms, she'll reach out to you.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
This has been the Wealth Without Wall Street podcast. Don't forget to subscribe to the show to break free of the Wall Street mindset and begin building wealth on your own terms in places you understand so that your wealth will never run dry. See you next episode.